Hello, everyone. Good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you're listening. And welcome to this week's session of Market Movers. Today, with you, Modesta, Head of Research and Finance here at DappRadar. And you most likely see that seems to be recovering after global conflicts and a few months of bear trends. Bitcoin, Ethereum are recovering. And some of you might argue that NFTs and the narrative around the metaverse and play touring is driving the recovery. And to talk about this, I have the pleasure to welcome today's guest, Robert, Head of Content at DappRadar and true play to earn guru. How are you doing today, Robert?
Hey, Modesta. Hey, everybody. Nice to be here. Yeah, I'm doing great. It's always a pleasure to talk about the metaverse, play to earn, and our passion. So let's do this.
Let's do that. Indeed. So before we begin today, I want to remind everyone here that, as always, we will be recording the session, so you can listen to this or any of the previous shows on DappRadar YouTube channel. And today's topic is going to be about NFTs. We are going to look quickly into past, present, and future, while trying to answer the question where the space is heading to. So I'm going to quick statistics that we saw in the past and see currently. So as you may all know that in 2021, NFT saw all-time high when it comes to trading volume. It was more than 25 billion over 2021. The 21 actually was very full with different kind of events, new dApps launching in NFT space, which of course was followed with different kind of celebrities entering this space, which also of course helped to make sure they onboard different kind of users to the space too. And what we see in the current few months that in total, we see that we already have 11 or close actually to 12 billion in Q1 2022. And although the current trend of trading volumes month on month suggests that this NFT space is cooling down, what is very important to note that in Q1 we already see 45% of what we already saw in 2021. So I think it's quite exciting number, and it says that maybe even if NFTs has cooled down, we still see quite a great road in the future. Robert, so what is your take? What is happening currently in the industry? Where do you see it going?
Yes, first and foremost, like people who say NFTs are a bubble or the bubble is going to break, they are clearly not seeing NFTs as a technology, but simply as a JPEG. We all know the right-click save as audience. I think one of the common misconceptions is that people see NFTs as something that needs to become $100,000 or more, and for that matter, I'm kind of relieved that we're seeing a cool down, because it's also a bit of a reality check. But it's not only about JPEGs and PFPs. I think what we're now going to see is groups, communities, projects really diving into utility.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not talking about art blocks or the artwork on super rare. Like that's purely art, purely for aesthetics. But like if you look at Azuki, Clonex, Invisible Friends, Doodles, Roller Women, V Friends, Cool Cats, all those collections, Bored Apes, of course, all those collections, even though the number is dropping, each of those collections has the floor price going up. Doodles, 95%. World of Women, 75% in the past 30 days, by the way. Azuki, almost 200%. Clonex, 100. Bored Apes, 100. So, and those are very, very big numbers. And what this shows to me is that if you have a PFP project that's purely collectible PFP project, then you won't make it. But if there's a team and a community behind it that adds value through participation, through association, then as a project, as a brand within the NFT space, you can generate value. And that this doesn't even require a token like the Bored Apes do. Like it's also the team and delivering to roadmaps. VFriends, it's honestly not one of my favorite projects, but their first event is coming up, and their floor price is now increasing 60% in the past 30 days, and that shows to me that PFPs and PFP NFTs, they have this way of connecting people, creating community with real-world effects. And the moment there's a real-world effect, for example, through something simple as a merchandise drop, or something more complex as a real-world meetups and that kind of stuff, suddenly that community creates value. And if everybody in that community is on, of course, like you can't build a community only based on the fact that you can buy a sweater. Like that would be ridiculous. But the moment a community starts building and starts making connections with other projects, that's how you generate value. And I think that's very interesting, and that's what you're seeing right now, with Bored Apes signing with Animoca brands, Clonex and Nike. World of Women had some partnerships and with the UN and the kind of stuff. I think like some more social elements to it. So each of those projects is creating their own way of branding themselves and how they want to position themselves within our worldwide society. And I think that's how you can see PFP projects differentiate from each other, and seeing the good ones and the bad ones fall.
Yes, I mean, Robert, you mentioned quite a few very remarkable projects already, and also the very interesting fact you mentioned. So yeah, I think we already see out there, people saying NFT bursting, or maybe even coming to the end, if to be extreme. But I think a few facts that you mentioned, and this is where we might agree on, that this is basically the stage of the industry which we're seeing. Which means that the industry most likely maturing. And even in 2021, I think a lot of us who were following what is happening in this space and NFT space got a feeling, that this growth doesn't seem very sustained, right? Because a lot of users were looking forward. They saw how some users were, successful purchasing Bored Apes or other very successful projects. They were looking for one, and of course, developers were ready to suggest one. But I think a lot of those projects, other new projects, didn't have enough maturity, or in other words, enough utility, just to make it longer than just to have like 2 or 4 weeks hype at the specific time.
Sorry. Now, to me, what's kind of interesting is like last year and also this year, you had like a couple of major projects that build and that make it, and you have hundreds. Now you can call them scams, or you can call them projects that just simply didn't make it, and the truth will be somewhere in between. But rewind the clock a little bit. Go roughly 4 years back. Now we had the ICO hype. Exactly the same thing. Like a couple of things work. Everybody jumps on board to launch ICOs, or translated now to launch NFT collections. and ultimately many of those will fail, but a couple of them will thrive and will grow into actual products or actual communities or brands or whatever you want to call it. And we've seen it with ICOs, and right now some of those ICO projects that still exist today, and they are even growing and are in the top 20, top 50 market cap.
Yeah,
So
exactly. And they do
and
have like more than a billion in value when it comes
yes,
to the market cap.
yeah. So translate that to NFTs. Yeah, it's kind of the same thing. Like ultimately, you invest in an NFT, or hopefully because you like it, and then hopefully it also yeah, brings you profit or wealth or whatever you want to call it. But ultimately, like not all of those projects will make it in the same way that the ICOs from 4 years ago, not all of them made it. So
Oh yeah, bunch of them I think didn't make to this point, but the ones who did, well, we see headlines, just they basically taking the top places when it comes to the at least the token market cap, but also building great products.
mhm.
Yeah, and I think like we can say that this whole industry, not only NFTs, but this whole industry is growing in cycles, and we see right now sort of a consolidation cycle in NFT space. And I think even if to look into the users, what happened, it was a great year for the users too, I think, because a lot of users were chasing these profitable projects, and some of them most likely left because they thought that, oh, I hate this, I didn't succeed like others. Some of them actually also got more experience, became more cautious, like how to properly check those projects. So I think there is a certain benefits not only for the projects but for the users or participants of NFT space that that brought together with 2021 all the hype and right now this consolidation period which we see.
Absolutely. I mean, you learn and you live and you learn, right? I mean, back in 2017, 18, I invested in masternodes. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that. Lost quite some money in that, and it just shows that you can become greedy, make stupid decisions, but ultimately you also learn from that. Like you learn to do research and become better at judging a project, either by checking the social media or by just by reading white papers, talking to people. You can learn a lot. So yeah, I think it's an interesting thing that we're seeing right now, and yeah, many projects will fall off. But as I said, like the floor prices of the most popular projects are rising, and that shows that there is a clear belief into NFTs. And to say that NFTs are dying, that's simply not true. I think what we're seeing is that no, the number of scam projects, maybe education is working, and people start to see that they are able to pop the bubble and see the scam. Like in the US, we've seen people being arrested already because they had a rug pool project. So it kind of shows that there's a sense of maturity coming also to the NFT space. So that's interesting times.
Well, definitely it is. And I really like one topic you touched. I don't think you really like that one topic. But I think, well, regulation is another, step, which usually, well, I always like to call it inventable evil, right? Was supposed to happen if, some industry in one way or another, well, attracts a certain amount of money and, of course, end up in some amount of scams, which hurts a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to stay in this regulation topic because it's quiet. Well, it's big and it's bubbling right now, and still it's very unclear how it's going to ended up and how it's going to affect this industry. Most likely, affect is going to happen, but Yeah, what I would like to concentrate maybe more is, looking, still we are looking a bit in the past, looking into present, finally we'll go more into the future. Uh, what I want to discuss is, we all know that the first project of NFTs was created like 4 or 5 years ago. And we only saw the hype happening in 2021. Maybe we can have a quick discussion. What has caused it? Why 21? Why it happened? What caused it?
Yeah, no, I think that's a very good question. Like, I think it's a couple of aspects played a role, right? I mean, yeah, we had a couple of big art sales to start with, like one-on-one art, like Fewocious had its breakthrough, like several, let's call them OG artists, like Xcopy, a lot of money, like those artists, Beeple, of course, let's not forget about him. They made headlines in mainstream media. Like their works reached a mainstream conscious. Around the same time, like the CryptoPunks were there already. They were launched in 2017, and the price has been going up around those late 2020. And as soon as some of those punks started selling for over $1 million, boom, mainstream media again. And I think like what really brought the big crowd in was, now you had punks selling for millions. Then suddenly there was hash masks that had like this. I'm not going to say it's a PFP project, because I personally consider it more as something like a generative art project, but I guess that's open for discussion. But suddenly there was hash masks, and they became super popular. They introduced interesting selling curve for the minting process. They had an element of surprise, gamification, because you didn't know what you were going to buy, and they had this community element, because what did these artworks mean? Like, what's the purpose of them? Like, and how do they relate to each other? And I think that's what really brought the idea of or spurred the idea of PFP NFTs. And then, of course, and then Bored Apes and Meebits launched almost on the same day, I think, early March. And that's when things went wild. And first in Meebits' favor, but ultimately, of course, in the favor of the apes.
Yes, in the favor of apes, and right now ended up in, apes and related projects. Right now has 8.1 billion in market cap. Very nice launch, right?
Yeah, I mean,
What I think,
to imagine, it's only literally a year ago.
yeah, it's actually a bit less. I think it happened in May or end in April, but yeah, almost a year. So yeah, but I think like what I would still want to bring, like why to this, why it happened. So of course, I mean, different projects brought attention, like also NBA Top Shot also had a dent, because it onboarded a lot of users. Then afterwards they lost a lot of users, but still they brought this concept to these players who is interested in basketball. But even prior to that, I think DeFi still, like, I think we need to give some flowers to DeFi. Because in 2020, there was DeFi hype, right? And this, yield farming really helped also onboard users. And to some extent, these users also were starting to look, what else? What else can I do? So, yeah, I just want to give this a bit of credits to DeFi too. But if to get back to 2021, another important or bunch of important events that happened. So, like celebrities like Eminem, and many others like brands and so on also really help, because behind these brands, behind these celebrities and brands like Nike and so on, there's a bunch of users, who's following, who's looking what these big guys are doing. So they really, really helped, to well, to the NFT space to be recognized even more.
Yeah, like I think like the celebrity factor should definitely not be neglected. Like I think you make a nice connection with NBA Top Shot there. I mean, like, and I'm just now talking about hypothetically, but no, imagine NBA Top Shot. You're a basketballer. You see your images sell for hundreds of thousands of dollars. You get fascinated by it. Maybe you even jump into NBA Top Shot yourself. And coming from that, we now have sporters like Stephen Curry, LaMelo Ball, all jumping into Bored Apes and other NFT projects because they have, and that is my assumption, because they were introduced to NFTs through NBA Top Shot.
Exactly. And later on, even some of these basketball players became proud Bored Ape owners too. Another collection, they also enter other collections. So yeah, it was quite the impact NBA Top Shot impacted this industry without a doubt. Okay, so
yeah. It's quite interesting how they now they're still quite active, but like prices have plummeted incredibly over the past year.
It did, and yeah, activity as well. And even with the different initiatives we are trying right now, it doesn't seem they're getting back to the highs they were back in 2021, right?
And they're going to launch an NFL thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we will see, right? We will see. I mean, different tries can help them to get back to the previous highs.
Fingers crossed.
Right. Fingers crossed. Exactly. So, right. Another thing I think is important to mention is, yeah, well, again, once again, touching this NFT bursting topic, right? Even though, like, if we would look only, in cumulative numbers, I mean, it would tell one story, right? And as already been spoken before, we see a different story when we look in those established projects, which will still like growing and will having basically all-time highs. But I think what is important to try at least to explain to our listeners. So, why do you think this is happening? Like, even in the events, like, well, right now, cryptocurrencies are growing again, right? Bitcoin growing, other coins are following. But even back in February, for example, or January, when everything was down, NFTs stayed quiet. Well, basically kept the value. Where do you think? Where is this coming from?
Yeah, I think there are NFTs with different use cases, right? I mean, when you talk about PFPs, is the culture. Like, I think PFP is really the culture. But if you talk about land in the metaverse, there's another type of utility there. If you talk about game items, and I personally find game items always very easy to talk about. Like, when in 2017, when we had that first, or at least my first crypto boom, and after that, 2018 and 19, the 2-year long bear market, we didn't have lots of options. Like, you could trade your crypto, and that's it. Like, there were no products to use. And nowadays, like, there are so many products to use and so many options, ranging from games to metaverse worlds to art. Yield farming, etc. So moving value out of a product you're invested in is something completely different than simply sending some tokens. Even if it's stopping your staking situation, then removing your liquidity from the pool, and then selling off your tokens. That's like three, and it sounds very stupid, but that's like 3 emotional steps you need to make. Like, and would you rather keep staking and accumulate the tokens in the hope that the price goes up because you believe in the project, or do you take those 3 steps and sell off everything? I think it's simply more difficult right now to sell off all your money. So put that to NFTs, add that social element to it. Let's say you're in the Bored Ape Club and you honestly are having a good time because now you get to I don't know, you get to order a sweater and then you have a party with some rapper and you're having a good time. Do you really think that you would be faced or shocked by a crypto drop? Some people probably will be, but not everybody. Like they are like if you're in a good project, be it a Bored Ape or be it let's say the metaverse world where you have your own art gallery or something like that. I think it's rather difficult to sell that because you're much more emotionally attached to it than a simple coin.
Yeah, and I totally agree. Emotional moment is very important here. And I mean, just to summarize what you said, so most likely NFTs like it's just a very different type of asset, first of all. And people really will, like you, like they are realizing those advantages, they are getting attached to it. Of course, always celebrities' endorsement, like even in January, February, same happened in March, was also right on the time, right? Where they were just concentrating on NFTs. And in that case, well, another thing, you mentioned games. This is a very clear use case or utility. And basically, those NFTs, I think, in this, we cannot say that it was a bear market, but most likely bear trend, just prove that it can store value a bit better than a single tokens.
Yeah,
Or
and ultimately, like what you of course also see is that let's say an NFT costs 100 ETH or $100,000 at some point. Like the moment you have 100 ETH and you sell it, there's a certain price attached to it. But the moment you have an NFT, you can think about it in dollars or you can think about it in ETH. And if you think like, okay, listen, I bought this for 100 ETH, so I want at least 150 ETH back, then that's a certain mindset. And that's not necessarily always about the value in US dollars. So I think that also plays a role. Like you have two ways to look at the value of an NFT, while you only have basically one way to look at the value of a crypto token. Now, okay, you also have two ways. You can say value against let's say Bitcoin and US dollar, but like with NFTs, I feel like you really have two mindsets. So what happened when the prices of crypto went down? There were some NFT projects where all the bigger whales would just increase the price in ETH to stay on par, or at least a little bit on par with the previous price in USD. So I think that also plays a role in the way people deal with the sentiment of value around NFTs.
I totally agree, and I think even sometimes a lot of decisions, is based on the emotions, state of emotions, right? If person, looks into NFTs, they might feel just a bit different than looking, like an ETH price, which may just trigger straight away, a panic sale, for example. And in NFTs, like I think another thing what is important to know, even if the prices are crashing, for example, it's not that entirely like easy, to sell it. And taking into consideration what you mentioned, so if I purchase it for let's say 100 ETH, most likely I still might be willing to wait because I know that I'm not going to sell, I'm not going to liquidate that easy, like a coin, right? And I would be more willing, as I said, to look through this ETH perspective than valuing into the dollar. So yeah, great notes. Okay, so, and if to look a bit into the future, yeah, so once again, NFTs seem to be proof keeping the value, storing the value pretty well. What is next for NFTs? And Robert, you may know I really like statistics, so I'm going just to throw some statistic on. So what do we see right now? Yeah, we saw sort of a hype in the past, I think, year of these profile picture NFTs, right? Avatar NFTs, which were hyping and so on. Well, right now everything calmed down a bit, but we also see some additional trends, which was started, of course, by Facebook Meta announcement, where a lot of users are interested in metaverse. Metaverse are still growing. But another thing and another fact when it comes to numbers, I think, which is important to take into consideration, if you, like a user, still have a doubt, like where is this NFT space is heading, is these games, right? So some statistics. In 2021, in total, there were more than 4 billion investment in games and game-related projects. What we saw so far in January and February, we do not have the statistics for March, it's already close to 2 billion investment, which means that in 2 months we basically did games space did half of it. And yeah, what this investment means, right? So if you are ever played any game, you might be aware that it takes a bit of the time, to build it. It's not that, you can pop up something in 2 weeks, which means that something is going to be unleashed, some interesting projects are going to be unleashed in the future. And how this connected to the NFT space is that, well, we all know that most of the projects do use NFTs, which basically brings the key difference between the traditional games. If I purchase some items within the game, if I'm bored and I don't want to play this game, I can just go ahead and sell it somewhere, right? So these NFTs also yeah, going to be part of this, part of these projects being built. Another stats. So even though we saw something interesting happening already with the games like X Infinity and many others, where we saw, I think, at the highest 1.5 million in usage. Let's compare with a bit more traditional games where they attract not millions, but billions of users. And I mean, I'm not going to say any number what the future might bring for the NFTs, but overall, this is a very interesting and quite exciting future that is going to be somewhere ahead. Most likely not this year, probably the next year, 2023 or even 2024, but well, the future is quite bright. Right. And yeah, Robert, I know that you also like quiet, basically not quiet, but a lot interested in this play turn. And maybe you can also elaborate your ideas about what this future might unleash and what we can see.
Yeah, like play to earn started a couple of years ago. Like you had Hunter Coin, literally a mining game where you needed to mine coins and then you would earn Bitcoin. It was literally one of the first play to earn games in its simplest forms. And I think what we're seeing right now with those investments, the 4 billion last year, the 1.7 in the first 2 months, shows that there's a general belief that play to earn will become a fundamental part of the games industry. Like a couple of years, 10 years ago, or 10, let's say 10, 15 years ago, with the rise of smartphones, free-to-play gaming was laughed at. Microtransactions were ridiculous. If some of you had an Xbox 360 back in the days, Ubisoft had a video game called Elder Scrolls, and in Elder Scrolls you could buy a golden outfit for your horse, and they had the ridiculous price point of like $3.50, something like that, a couple of dollars for just a golden horse outfit. Nowadays, people pay $10 or $20 just to have a certain skin in Fortnite or in Overwatch. It just shows that things that are first ridiculed and laughed at, or people get angry about, suddenly become the norm in the future. And I think the same is happening with play to earn. I'm not saying play to earn every video game will become play to earn, because that's not the case. Like, there are plenty of video games out there right now that don't have microtransactions, that don't work with season passes or anything of that type. But play to earn will become one of the pillars of the game industry, and we're seeing that right now. Ubisoft showing interest, Square Enix, Electronic Arts, Activision Blizzard is looking at it together with Microsoft. Like, things are getting serious. But like you said, it takes a couple of years to develop a good game. Like, what we've been seeing so far are small mobile games or very simple web games, let's call it that, like either idle games or card games or games that require hardly any interaction. Games that are simple, that don't really provide entertainment. I tend to file them in the GameFi folder. That's in gamified DeFi. But those billions of investments, what that will do is it will allow play to earn to also become entertainment. And whether we will call it play to earn, that remains to be seen. Like, that right now there's this negative connotation that play to earn suggests that you need to earn, that you need to become rich from it. Personally, I don't feel that, but there are people who feel that way, and I always try to explain that no, you're not making a living from it. You could potentially, but what you're doing is you're generating value. Because you contribute to a game economy, you generate value, and that value can be extracted from the game if you choose to stop playing. So back to that 1.7 million and 4 billion investments. So that's 5.7 billion in just 14 months. That goes into infrastructure, that goes into sidechain solutions, like or layer 2 solutions like Immutable X, like Optimism, like Polygon, and those platforms themselves, they invest again in bringing games to their platform. So bringing Ember Sword, bringing the Sandbox, and all those bigger projects, take them to easy to use, cheap to use blockchain ecosystems that don't require too much of a hassle for users, and make that experience as smooth as possible. So I think, like, within the next 2 to 4 years, we will have a play to earn game that's built, that's being played by hundreds of thousands of players, and it will become let's say popular on Twitch. Instead of people playing League of Legends, they will watch people play whatever play to earn game is popular at that time. So I'm a big believer in play to earn.
Yeah, me too. And I see like a lot of, signals, like investments, also interest from all over the place to this play to earn that might suggest that, yeah, you might be right. we all might be right. And if I just may ask, Robert, so what is the project you most would like to see on the blockchain, build on the blockchain? Is there any particular you will would you be very excited?
People from my generation lived their high school in MMORPGs. So seeing an MMORPG being successful on the blockchain with NFTs, with play to earn elements, with people having jobs in that particular world, that would be very, very cool. Like, I would love to see that. And I'm not talking, about an MMO world with 50 people. Really like having a world filled with thousands of people, where maybe some people are just farming herbs, other people are just chopping wood, but they have a function within that environment, and because they do that, other people can do other things, and everything becomes related, and it almost becomes, it sounds very cheesy, it becomes like a job. But there's an argument to be made that every game is already a little bit like a job, because when you're working, you want to be precise, you want to be fast, accurate, and produce the best results possible. To an extent, gaming is the same way. Like, you when you're playing FIFA, you want to optimize your tactics to beat your opponent with the biggest score possible, making the most beautiful goals. So from that mind perspective, there's not much difference between entertainment and work. It's just between gaming and work. It's just that we experience gaming as something we can do in a laid back environment. And I think that's an important note, that every play to earn game, or that becomes popular, should not solely rely on workers. Like, they should, each of those games should have the option to just relax and do whatever you want. And I think that's something that's clearly missing right now. For example, if you look at Axie Infinity, many people play that game for profit reasons, and they're missing the fact that it should also be played for entertainment purposes.
Have fun, right?
Yes, and having fun also doesn't mean you need to invest hundreds of dollars before you can play. So I think that's one of the hurdles we have right now. Like, we need to make it, or not we, developers need to make it accessible, and it needs to become more fun to actually play a game.
Yeah. Well, at the end, these games were invented to basically to keep humanity busy, and help them to relax. So yeah, they're supposed to be fun. Blockchain games gives you an opportunity to not have fun, but also earn. But yeah, I agree that still the most important part is supposed to be the playing or having fun. Right. These are very interesting insights, Robert. Yeah, and I think we are running out of time a bit. But before we go, I want to just maybe give a chance to someone from the audience. Do you guys have any questions to Robert or to me? And before someone will pop up, maybe Robert, you want to have any kind of closing thoughts just to share with our community?
No, I see Big Baldy has a question, so I will invite him to the stage.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Big Baldy.
Come on.
Yes,
Oh,
there you are.
hello.
Welcome.
Hello.
Big
How are you
Baldy.
doing?
Are you there? Is your mic working? Oh no. Baldy.
Hello. Don't be shy. Okay,
Okay.
I also think someone
I
else
will,
is.
I will move him back to the audience.
Mhm.
And I see Agamido Daigwe. So I will. Oh, you've invited him? Yeah. Okay, cool. Hi, Agamido. How you doing?
Hello.
You were here yesterday as well, in the AMA with Splinterlands, and your mic didn't work back then. Is it working now? Nope.
Oh, so sad, unfortunately. Hello. Well, we cannot hear you too, unfortunately.
No. Now, closing thoughts. Okay, I will. Agamigo, sorry, I will move you back to the audience. Closing thoughts. Now, actually, I won't elaborate too much, but one thing I find super fascinating, and I hope some of you have seen it as well. Last week there was the Metaverse Fashion Week, and no, I talked about communities reaching out to like PFP communities becoming more than just a PFP. So having an impact in the real world, making real life connections, etc. So following up to that statement, last week there was the Metaverse Fashion Week in Decentraland, organized by Boson Protocol. And Boson Protocol is a company that merges digital and physical fashion. And what's interesting and what I find super fascinating is this whole idea of you buy an NFT. With that NFT is a digital pants or digital shirt or whatever, but you can use that NFT to redeem an actual physical version of that same sweater or the same pants. And I honestly see that kind of stuff as one of the big futures for retail, like combining digital and physical, giving a person's digital avatar that ultimately they can move across different worlds, the ability to wear something that you also wear in the real world, in the same way that people who have a Bored Ape right now, they wear a Bored Ape sweater. It's not exactly the same sweater, but they wear a Bored Ape sweater. But like combining digital and physical would allow you to have an exact copy of yourself with the same clothes in the metaverse. And you don't have to, but you can, of course. And I find that a very fascinating thing. And then seeing all kinds of brands, fashion brands, embracing NFTs, ranging from Adidas to
Nike, Louis
to
Vuitton.
Nike, of course. Yeah. Then I think that's something that's going to happen, and I find that super cool. Like also seeing artists like Furious selling artworks and selling NFTs together with shoes in the same way that Artifact Studios created sneakers for each CryptoPunk holder. So they could I think they were probably a couple of $1,000, I don't know, but a CryptoPunk holder could because they have the NFT, they could buy that sneaker. And that's again that's the combination of having something digital and combining that with something physical. And I find that super interesting. And it's not only for clothes, also when you talk about identity and your identity in the metaverse and how that ties into maybe in the future, to government stuff. You talked about regulation. I think Barbados, the country of Barbados, is going to establish an embassy inside Decentraland, and that would allow you to obtain a visum, a tourist visum, for when you really go on holiday to Barbados.
Wow,
And
interesting.
yeah, and that kind of stuff, like super fascinating. That really gets me hyped and excited about the future. And yeah, that's like the final thought I want to give everybody before you take the mic away from me, Modesta.
So I'm going to take it now.
Okay.
But thanks for sharing your thoughts. And I mean, like, once again, that's why I want to mention this thing. So NFTs is going to stay. And the things that Robert just mentioned, but also, and many other brands like Gap, Gucci, Louis Vuitton, they are preparing and thinking how to tokenize the physical products or even services. So this is just the future that is going to appear in the future. So I think it would be very, very bad just to a few, let's say, lower months when it comes to the trading volume or let's say overall activity, and to say that, well, NFTs are bursting or going away. We need to take a look at a way bigger picture where it comes to brands, where it comes to the investment attract to the game space, in order to make, well, our own judgment. What do we think we can expect in the future? And I see that none of our speakers were able to, well, they were able to enter the stage, but were not able to raise any questions. So, well, that's a bit of unfortunate. But just remember that each week at the same time, we have market movers discussing these different type of topics. And we also have Wednesday Ian's show, where he does, well, MEAs with a different kind of brands too. And also don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter, social media channels, Twitter, Discord, YouTube. And I think that's all for today. So thanks again and have an amazing weekend.
Have an awesome weekend, everybody. Thank you for being here.